Daniel Price stood on the bridge of his ship. The Intrepid was one of Earth's newest defense vessels. It floated quietly in space, waiting. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. Nobody spoke much. They all knew something big was about to happen. The screen in front of Daniel flickered. A face appeared. It was not a human face. The creature had 3 eyes that blinked one after another. Its mouth was full of sharp parts that clicked together when it moved. This was High Counselor Zethric. He was the leader of the Galactic Council. The Galactic Council ruled most of the known galaxy. They had been in power for 12,000 years. That was a very long time, longer than human civilization had even existed. Earth had only known about aliens for 30 years. In those 30 years, humans had learned one important lesson. They were at the bottom of the galactic order. The alien on the screen began to speak. His voice came through the translator, making it sound cold and harsh. Humanity, this is your final warning. You have broken our laws. You have built too many weapons too quickly. No new species has ever armed themselves this fast. You claim star systems that we marked as buffer zones. These are our territories. You have one galactic cycle to obey. You must submit to council authority. You must destroy your military. Daniel looked at Lisa Martinez. She was his second in command. Lisa had dark eyes that showed her anger clearly. Her jaw was tight. She looked like she wanted to say something but held back. Daniel understood how she felt. He felt the same way. Daniel asked a question even though he knew what the answer would be. What happens if we refuse? The alien's mouth part spread wide. On a human, this might look like a smile. On Zethric, it looked like a threat. Like a predator showing its teeth before attacking. Then we will do what we have done before. We have dealt with 347 species who refuse to obey. We will quarantine your system. No ships will come in or out, no trade, no communication, nothing. You will be completely alone. Your civilization will die slowly. It will take about a century. We are very good at this. We have practiced many times. Your resistance is pointless. It is almost cute that you think you can fight us. The screen went dark. The transmission ended. Daniel turned slowly to look at his crew. They were all young. Everyone on Earth's military was young. When first contact happened, Earth did not have a space military. These people had grown up knowing that humans were weak. They knew Earth was the newest and smallest voice in the galaxy. They had lived their whole lives being told they did not matter. Daniel spoke quietly to his communications officer. Get me a secure line to Admiral Carter on Earth. Lisa moved closer to him. Her voice was low so only he could hear. What are we going to do, sir? Daniel stared at the empty space where the alien's face had been. He thought about the threat. About Earth being cut off from the galaxy. About humanity slowly dying while the rest of the universe ignored them. He thought about all the species that had been forced to submit. All the civilizations that had given up their freedom because they were afraid. We are going to show them something, Daniel said. We are going to show the galaxy that humans do not accept threats easily. We are going to do something the Council has never seen before. Lisa waited. What is that, sir? Daniel's eyes became hard like stone. We are going to fight back. The words hung in the air. Everyone on the bridge heard them. A few crew members looked up from their stations. Fighting back meant war. War with a civilization that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. War with an enemy that had crushed every other species that had tried to resist. But nobody argued. Nobody said it was impossible. Maybe it was because they were young and did not know better. Or maybe it was because they were human, and humans had a long history of fighting when they were told to surrender. The communication line opened. Admiral Patricia Carter's face appeared on the screen. She was on Earth, deep underground in the command center. Her gray hair was cut short. Her face showed years of experience and hard decisions. Captain Price, she said. I saw the transmission. The whole command staff saw it. I assume you are calling to discuss our response. Yes, Admiral. They gave us one cycle to surrender. I think we should use that time differently. We should use it to prepare. Carter nodded slowly. I was hoping you would say that. Come back to Earth. We have a lot of planning to do. And Captain, when you get here, bring your whole senior staff. We're going to need everyone's ideas. The Intrepid turned and began its journey back to Earth. As they traveled, Daniel thought about what was coming. The Council had power. They had technology. They had thousands of years of experience. But they also had weaknesses. They were comfortable. They were confident. They believed nobody could challenge them. That confidence was their weakness, and Daniel planned to use it against them. 3 days later, Daniel sat in a meeting room deep under the Rocky Mountains. Around the table were the leaders of Earth's defense forces. There were generals and admirals. There were scientists and engineers. There were intelligence officers and diplomats. They represented every nation on Earth. For once, humanity was completely united. Admiral Carter stood at the head of the table. Behind her was a huge screen showing star maps and tactical data. She began to speak. Everyone here knows why we are gathered. The Council has given us an ultimatum. Surrender or die. Some of you might think we should surrender, save lives, accept their rule. But I want you to think about what that means. It means giving up our freedom forever. It means our children and their children will live under alien control. It means humanity will never reach its full potential. She paused and looked around the room. Every eye was on her. I say no. I say we fight. Not because we will definitely win, but because some things are worth fighting for even when victory seems impossible. Our freedom is worth fighting for. Our future is worth fighting for. And if we go down fighting like humans always have. Someone in the room started clapping. Then another person joined. Soon everyone was standing and applauding. They knew the odds. They knew how powerful the Council was. But they also knew that humans had faced impossible odds before and survived. Carter raised her hand for silence. Now let us talk about how we are going to do this. We have 30 days before their deadline, 30 days to position our forces, 30 days to prepare for the biggest fight in human history. Dr. Kevin Murphy stood up. He was Earth's top expert on alien technology. He had spent years studying every piece of Council technology that Earth could get their hands on. The Council thinks we are primitive, he said. They think our technology is crude and simple. They are wrong. We have been studying their systems for 30 years. We know how their ships work. We know how their weapons function. And we found their weaknesses. He pulled up a diagram on the screen. It showed a Council warship with several areas marked in red. Their technology is advanced, but it is also old. They have not improved it in centuries. Why would they? Nobody has challenged them. They became lazy. Their systems are predictable. Their tactics are textbook perfect. And that is their greatest weakness. They do everything by the book. We are going to throw away the book. Daniel listened carefully. This was the kind of thinking they needed. The Council expected a conventional fight. They expected Earth to play by their rules. Humans needed to do the opposite. The meeting went on for hours. Plans were made. Resources were allocated. Every person in the room left with assignments. They had 30 days to prepare for war. 30 days to get ready for the fight of their lives. As Daniel left the command center, Lisa walked beside him. She looked worried. Do you really think we can win? Daniel considered the question carefully. Win? Maybe not in the way you mean, but we can make it so expensive for them to beat us that they will think twice about threatening another species. We can show the galaxy that the Council is not invincible. That alone might be worth everything. Lisa nodded slowly. She understood. This was not just about Earth surviving. It was about changing the balance of power in the entire galaxy. It was about giving hope to every other species that lived under Council rule. They walked outside into the cold mountain air. Above them, stars filled the sky. Somewhere out there, the Council was preparing their forces. They were getting ready to crush another rebellious species, but they did not know what was waiting for them. They did not understand what humans were capable of when pushed into a corner. They were about to find out. The days passed quickly. All across Earth, people worked day and night. Factories that once made cars now made weapons. Scientists who studied medicine now studied alien technology. Everyone had a role to play. Everyone understood what was at stake. In the underground command center, Admiral Carter watched the preparations. Screens showed activity all over the solar system. Ships were being moved into position. Weapons were being armed. Traps were being set. Earth was turning itself into a fortress. Dr. Kevin Murphy entered the room carrying a data pad. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. He had been working without rest for days, but there was excitement in his voice when he spoke. Admiral, we finished the analysis. The Council's communication system has a weakness. Every ship connects through quantum relays. These relays are spread throughout their territory. If we destroy enough of them, we can cut off their ability to coordinate their forces. Carter looked at the data. How many would we need to destroy? Murphy pointed at the map. There are 17 key relays within 50 light-years of Earth. Destroy those and we cut off real-time communication for an entire sector. Their fleet would be operating blind. They would have to use slower methods to send messages. That gives us a tactical advantage. Carter smiled. It was a cold smile. A dangerous smile. This is good, very good. What else do you have? Murphy pulled up more data. The Council forbids certain types of weapons. They call them too dangerous, too unpredictable. Kinetic impactors that can destroy planets, self-replicating mines, swarm drones guided by artificial intelligence. They banned these weapons thousands of years ago, and we built them anyway, Carter said. It was not a question. Murphy nodded. We built all of them. We have been building them in secret for 20 years. The Council thinks we follow their rules. They are wrong. We studied their banned weapons list and used it as a shopping list. General Marcus Cole joined the conversation. He was in charge of Earth's ground forces, though in space there was no real ground to fight on. His specialty was unconventional warfare. Fighting dirty, winning by any means necessary. The Council fights honorably, he said. They have rules about combat. They think war should be fair. Humans learned a long time ago that fair fights are for sports. Real war is about winning, Carter agreed. What is your assessment of their tactical doctrine? Cole pulled up battle records. We studied every war they fought in the last 2,000 years. They are predictable. They always use the same formations, the same strategies. They attack head-on with overwhelming force. They expect their enemies to stand and fight. They do not expect guerrilla tactics. They do not expect traps. They do not expect an enemy that refuses to fight fair. And that is what we are going to do, Carter said. We are going to fight the dirtiest war they have ever seen. We are going to use every trick humans have learned in 10,000 years of killing each other. We are going to show them why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Commander Sarah Blake stepped forward. She ran Earth's intelligence and special operations. Her job was to gather information and cause trouble behind enemy lines. She had agents scattered across Council space. Our people are in position, she reported. We have operatives on 15 Council worlds. They are ready to sabotage key facilities. We also have a propaganda network prepared. When the fighting starts, we will flood Council territory with broadcasts. We will show other species what the Council really is. We will turn public opinion against them. Carter listened carefully. This was not just a military operation. It was a political one. The Council ruled through fear and the appearance of invincibility. Earth needed to shatter that appearance. They needed to show the galaxy that the Council could be hurt, could be beaten. A young officer raised his hand. He looked nervous but determined. Admiral, I have a question. Even with all these preparations, we are still talking about fighting a civilization that controls 10,000 star systems. How can we possibly win? Carter walked to the large star map on the wall. She pointed at the Council's territory. It was huge. It covered most of the galaxy. Then she pointed at the tiny dot that was Earth. You are right. We cannot conquer them. We cannot occupy their worlds. We cannot rule the galaxy. But we do not need to do any of that. We just need to make them hurt. We need to make conquering Earth so expensive and painful that they decide it is not worth it. We need to break their will to fight. She turned back to face the room. The Council has ruled for 12,000 years. In all that time, no species has given them a real fight. They have forgotten what it means to bleed. They have forgotten what it means to lose. We are going to remind them. Dr. Murphy brought up another display. This one showed Earth's defenses. There were ships, stations, weapons platforms, and things that looked like asteroids but were not. We have been preparing the solar system for 30 years, he explained. Every asteroid is a potential weapon. Every satellite has hidden capabilities. Every orbital platform can fight. When the Council comes here, they will enter a killing field. This entire star system is one giant trap. General Cole added more information. We also developed new weapons the Council has never seen. Swarm drones that think for themselves, mines that can move and chase targets, missiles that can split into hundreds of smaller missiles. Nothing we have is conventional. Nothing follows their rules. Carter looked at her team. These were the best minds on Earth. Scientists, soldiers, spies, and strategists. They had been planning this for years, waiting for the moment when Earth would have to stand and fight. That moment had arrived. How long until the ultimatum expires? She asked. 27 days, someone answered. Carter nodded. Good. We use those 27 days to finalize our preparations, but we are not going to wait for them to attack. On day 28, we strike first. We hit their communication network. We destroy their forward bases. We make them react to us instead of the other way around. The room erupted in discussion. People were surprised. The plan had been to defend Earth when the Council attacked. Nobody expected Earth to attack first. It was bold. It was risky. It was exactly what the Council would not expect. Carter raised her hand for silence. Listen to me. The Council thinks we are scared. They think we will sit here and wait for them to come destroy us. They are wrong. We are humans. We do not wait to be attacked. We take the initiative. We strike first and strike hard. She looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. In 27 days, this war begins. But it begins on our terms, not theirs. We choose the time. We choose the place. We choose how this fight happens. And when the history books are written, they will remember that Earth did not go quietly. We went down fighting. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the weight of what was about to happen. Earth was about to start the biggest war in human history, against an enemy that seemed unbeatable. But humans had faced impossible odds before. Every major advancement in human history came from someone who refused to accept that something could not be done. From the first person who made fire to the first person who went to space, humans always pushed boundaries, always fought against limitations. The Council was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Over the next weeks, Earth became a hive of activity. Ships moved into attack positions. Weapons were loaded. Soldiers trained. Scientists made final adjustments to new technologies. Diplomats recorded messages to be broadcast across the galaxy when the fighting started. Captain Daniel Price prepared his crew on the Intrepid. They would be part of the first strike force. Their mission was to destroy a major Council communication relay. It was a dangerous job, but Daniel trusted his crew. More importantly, he trusted their training and their courage. Lisa Martinez found him in the cargo bay. He was checking equipment personally, making sure everything was ready. She stood next to him and helped with the inspection. "Do you think they suspect anything?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. "No, they think we are cowering in fear, waiting for them to come punish us. They have no idea what is about to happen. That is our advantage." Surprise, Lisa smiled. It was good to see confidence in Daniel's eyes. Good to know that Earth's leaders believed in this plan. If they had any doubts, they hid them well. 27 days passed like a dream. Or maybe a nightmare. Time moved both too fast and too slow. People wanted more time to prepare, but they also wanted the waiting to end, wanted to finally start fighting instead of just talking about it. On the 28th day, Admiral Carter stood in the command center. Around her, every station was manned. Every screen showed data. Every person was ready. She took a deep breath. "This is it," she said quietly. "This is the moment that changes everything. For better or worse, we are about to find out if humans can stand against the galaxy's greatest power. All ships execute Operation First Strike. Show them what Earth can do." Across the solar system, human ships activated their faster-than-light drives. They jumped away, heading for their targets deep in Council space. The war had begun. Earth had thrown the first punch. Now they would see how the Council responded. And somewhere far away, High Counselor Zethric had no idea that his perfect, ordered galaxy was about to be turned upside down. High Counselor Zethric was reading reports when the alerts started. At first he ignored them. There were always small problems somewhere in Council space. Pirates attacking traders, minor disputes between worlds, nothing that required his personal attention. Then more alerts came. And more. His entire communication system lit up like a warning board. Something was very wrong. His aide rushed into the room. Vrix was young for a Krell, usually calm and professional. Now he looked terrified. "High Counselor, the humans have attacked us." Zethric's 3 eyes blinked in confusion. That made no sense. Attacked? Impossible. We still have 26 days before the ultimatum expires. They would not dare strike first. Where did they attack? One of our scout ships? Vrix looked down at his data pad. His hands were shaking. "No, sir. They hit 17 listening posts, 3 supply depots, the garrison at Proxima Station, and they destroyed the quantum relay at Kepler 442. Zethric felt cold fear spread through his body. The quantum relay. That relay connected 40 star systems. Without it, communication would be delayed by days instead of happening instantly. An entire sector had gone dark. "Show me," he demanded. Fricks pulled up the tactical display. Red markers showed destroyed facilities. They covered a huge area of space around Earth. The pattern was clear and terrifying. Earth had not just attacked randomly. They had planned this. They had struck at communication and supply infrastructure. They had isolated Council forces in an entire region. "This is impossible," Zethric whispered. "They are primitives. How could they coordinate such an attack?" The reports kept coming in. Every target had been hit at almost the same time. The strikes were surgical and precise. No civilian casualties, but maximum damage to military infrastructure. Whoever planned this understood modern warfare better than most Council commanders. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Lisa Martinez watched the last Council supply depot explode. The mission had gone perfectly. All targets destroyed, 0 casualties on the human side. The element of surprise had worked even better than expected. "All targets neutralized," she reported to Captain Price. "No damage to our fleet." Daniel nodded. His face showed no emotion, but inside he felt relief. The first phase had worked. Now came the harder part. "Good work, everyone. Prepare for Phase 2. Let us give the Council more problems to worry about." Across Council territory, human agents activated their secondary missions. On Terminus Prime, saboteurs disabled the main shipyard. Massive construction facilities went dark. Ships being built would now take months longer to complete. On Vega Central, encrypted files flooded the data networks. These files showed the truth about Council history. All the species they had crushed. All the civilizations they had destroyed. All the lies they had told. Earth was not just fighting a military war. They were fighting an information war, trying to turn public opinion against the Council, show other species that the Council was not the benevolent ruler it claimed to be. On a dozen worlds, mysterious broadcasts began. They showed footage from Council archives, videos of peaceful species being threatened, records of worlds that had been quarantined and left to die, evidence of corruption and abuse of power, all of it hidden for centuries, now revealed to the entire galaxy. Back on Earth, Dr. Murphy monitored the reactions. His screens showed social media feeds from hundreds of worlds. People were talking, questioning, protesting. The carefully controlled narrative that the Council maintained was starting to crack. "It is working," he reported to Admiral Carter. "We are seeing protests on 15 Council worlds. 3 member species have requested emergency hearings about how the Council handles Earth. The Therian delegation just withdrew their support for military action against us," Carter allowed herself a small smile. "The Council rules through fear and the appearance of being all-powerful. We just showed them bleeding. Now every species they have bullied is watching, wondering if they can fight back too." On the Council flagship Eternal Order, Zethric called an emergency meeting. His military commanders gathered around the holographic display. It showed the extent of the damage. Communication networks disrupted, supply lines broken, forward bases destroyed. It was a disaster. "This cannot stand," Zethric said. His voice shook with rage. His mandibles clicked rapidly. "We cannot allow primitives to attack Council property without consequences. Send the Third Fleet to Earth immediately. Blockade their system. Show them the price of defiance." Fleet Commander Valorix was an old soldier. He had fought in dozens of campaigns, won hundreds of battles. He knew war in a way that politicians like Zethric never could. And right now his instincts were screaming warnings. "High Counselor, with respect, we should proceed carefully. This attack pattern shows significant military sophistication. They struck our communications first. That isolated our forces. They avoided civilian targets but caused maximum strategic damage. These are not the actions of primitives. We should study their capabilities before committing our main fleet." Zethric's eyes blazed with anger. "Caution, they destroyed Council property. They killed Council personnel. Hundreds are dead because of human aggression. We respond with overwhelming force. We remind the galaxy why the Council has ruled for 12,000 years. Send the Third Fleet now." Valorix bowed his head. He knew better than to argue further. Orders were orders. But privately he was deeply concerned. In his entire career, spanning 3 centuries, he had never seen anyone dare strike first against the Council. The humans had not only dared, they had succeeded brilliantly. What worried him most was not what the humans had done. It was what their actions implied about what they might do next. They had planned this attack carefully. They had studied Council weaknesses. They had exploited those weaknesses perfectly. This suggested preparation, training, intelligence gathering that had been going on for years. The humans were not panicking. They were executing a plan, and that was far more dangerous than simple desperation. Across the galaxy, news of the attack spread rapidly. On hundreds of worlds, people gathered to watch broadcasts about what Earth had done. For species that lived under Council rule, it was shocking. Unbelievable. The mighty Council had been hurt, actually hurt, by a species that had only known about aliens for 30 years. Some people cheered. Others were afraid of what the Council would do in response. But everyone was talking about it. Everyone was questioning whether the Council was really as invincible as they claimed. On the Therian homeworld, Senator Kiara watched the broadcasts with growing interest. The Therians had been Council members for 8,000 years. They had always been loyal, always followed Council directives without question. But lately she had been having doubts. The Council demanded more and more tribute, more resources, more soldiers, more obedience. They gave little in return except protection from threats that might not even exist. Kiara had started to wonder if the Council was truly necessary, or if they were just parasites who had convinced everyone they were essential. Now the humans had shown that the Council could be resisted, could be hurt, and Kiara found herself hoping that Earth would survive, would keep fighting. Because if they could stand up to the Council, maybe others could too. Maybe change was possible. She was not alone in thinking this. All across Council space, leaders were having similar thoughts. The balance of power that had existed for 12,000 years was beginning to shift. Not because of military might, but because of an idea. The idea that resistance was possible. Ideas were more dangerous than weapons. They could not be blocked by shields or destroyed by missiles. Once an idea took hold, it spread like wildfire. And the idea that the Council could be fought was spreading rapidly. Zethric understood this danger. That was why he ordered such an overwhelming response. The Third Fleet was the largest military force the Council had assembled in centuries. 300 warships, enough firepower to destroy entire planets. They would crush Earth quickly and brutally, make an example that would terrify any other species thinking about resistance. The fleet prepared to move. Commanders briefed their crews. Weapons were charged. Ships formed into standard attack formations. Everything was done by the book. The Council had refined their military doctrine over thousands of years. They knew it worked. They had used it to conquer or control every species they had encountered, but they had never faced humans before. And humans did not fight by the book. On Earth, Admiral Carter received reports about the Council fleet moving toward the solar system. She had expected this, planned for it. Everything was going according to her strategy. They took the bait, she said quietly. They are angry. They want revenge. They are going to come at us with overwhelming force, exactly as we predicted. General Cole stood next to her. And we are ready for them. The solar system is one giant trap. They think they are coming to punish us. They have no idea what awaits them. Carter nodded. Let them come. Let them see what happens when you corner a species that has spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war. Let them learn what humans are really capable of. The Third Fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel. They were heading for Earth, for what they thought would be an easy victory. A simple punishment mission. They expected to find a frightened species begging for mercy. They were going to be very surprised. The Council's Third Fleet arrived at Earth's solar system in perfect formation. 300 ships arranged in standard attack pattern. It was an impressive sight. The largest military force assembled in Council space in over 800 years. Fleet Commander Valoric stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominion. Around him, officers worked at their stations. Screens showed tactical data, sensor readings, status reports. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Where are their ships? His tactical officer asked. We are picking up orbital platforms and civilian infrastructure, but no military vessels. Did they run away? Valorix felt uneasy. His 3 centuries of combat experience were screaming warnings. Something was wrong. Very wrong. No, they did not run. Maintain full alert status. Scan for anything unusual. Hidden ships. Weapons platforms, mines, anything. The fleet moved forward slowly, cautiously. They crossed the outer edge of the solar system. Nothing happened. They pushed deeper, past the orbit of the outer planets. Still nothing. Officers began to relax. Maybe the humans had fled after all. Maybe their bold first strike had used up all their courage. Then the traps activated. What looked like asteroids suddenly lit up with engine thrust. They were not asteroids. They were massive kinetic impactors, huge chunks of rock and metal with powerful engines attached. They accelerated toward the Council fleet at incredible speeds. What looked like space debris revealed itself as a network of mines. But these were not ordinary mines that floated in place. These mines could move. They had engines and targeting systems. They swarmed toward Council ships like angry insects. The orbital platforms that seemed civilian suddenly transformed. Panels opened. Weapons emerged. Weapons that did not match any known Council technology. Weapons that fired faster and hit harder than anything the Council had seen before. The Third Fleet was not attacking Earth. It was fighting for survival in a carefully prepared killing field. Evasive action, Valeric shouted. All ships engage defensive protocols. Return fire on those platforms. But the Council fleet was designed for traditional combat. Ship against ship, formation against formation. They were not prepared for this kind of warfare. This was chaos, traps everywhere, weapons coming from all directions, enemy forces that refused to fight honorably. On Earth, Admiral Carter watched the battle through sensor feeds. She stood calmly in the command center while data streamed across multiple screens. Everything was going according to plan. Deploy swarm drones, she ordered. Target their command ships first. Disrupt their communications before they can call for reinforcements. Hidden launch bays across the solar system opened. Thousands of small drones poured out. Each one was no bigger than a person. Each one carried enough explosive to damage a ship. But the real threat was not individual drones. It was how they worked together. The drones were controlled by artificial intelligence. They could think, adapt, coordinate with each other in real time. They swarmed Council ships like a school of piranha attacking prey. Point defense systems tried to shoot them down. But there were too many. For every drone destroyed, 10 more took its place. The Council had never fought an enemy that used such tactics. Their military doctrine emphasized large ships and overwhelming firepower, honor in combat, fair fights between equals. The humans were doing the exact opposite, using small cheap weapons in massive numbers, fighting dirty, exploiting every weakness. But effective tactics were effective regardless of honor. Valeric watched his casualty reports climb. 5 ships destroyed in the first minutes, 10 more damaged, 15, 20. They had not even reached the inner planets yet. At this rate, the fleet would be crippled before they could accomplish anything. All ships fall back to defensive formation, he ordered. Concentrate fire on those drone swarms. Protect the larger vessels. But as the Council fleet tried to regroup, the human fleet finally revealed itself. They had been hiding, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Ships emerged from behind moons and planets. They had been there all along, using the natural features of the solar system to mask their presence. Captain Daniel Price stood on the bridge of the Intrepid. Behind him, 50 Earth ships formed up. They were smaller than Council vessels, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons the Council had banned centuries ago. All ships engage at will, Daniel ordered. Remember the plan. We do not need to destroy them all. We just need to make them regret coming here. The human ships attacked, but not in formation, not following any traditional battle plan. Each ship moved independently, striking and retreating, using hit-and-run tactics, targeting damaged vessels to finish them off quickly, avoiding direct confrontations with stronger ships. It was frustrating for the Council forces. They wanted a proper battle, a fair fight where superior numbers and firepower would win, but the humans refused to give them that. They fought like guerrillas, like pirates, like anything except a proper military. The battle raged for 6 hours. Ship against ship, drone against point defense, kinetic weapon against shield. The space around Earth became a graveyard of destroyed vessels and debris. Most of it was Council ships. Valeric finally made the hardest decision of his career. All ships withdraw. Fall back beyond the system's edge. We cannot win this battle, the admission stung. In 300 years of military service, he had never retreated. Never failed a mission. But there was no point in losing more ships for nothing. The humans had won this round. The Third Fleet limped away, 73 ships destroyed. Many more damaged. The blockade had failed before it even began. Earth remained free and defiant, but the tactical victory was only part of the story. The strategic victory was even more important. Earth had broadcast the entire battle. Every species in the galaxy with communication equipment had watched. They saw the mighty Council fleet arrive with overwhelming force. They saw it get beaten back by a civilization the Council called primitive. The illusion of Council invincibility shattered in those 6 hours. If humans could do this, what did that mean for the Council's power? What did it mean for all the other species living under Council rule? On 100 worlds, leaders watched the battle replays. Some were shocked. Others were inspired. Many started asking dangerous questions about whether they really needed the Council, whether they could resist if they chose to. High Counselor Zethric stood before an emergency session of the full Galactic Council. The chamber was filled with representatives from dozens of species. Usually these sessions were orderly, respectful. Everyone knew their place. Everyone followed protocol. Not today. The Therian representative spoke first. Her voice was cold and angry. You told us the humans were no threat. You said their military was primitive. You promised this would be simple enforcement of Council law. Instead, we lost hundreds of ships. Thousands of crew members are dead, and we gained nothing except embarrassment. Other voices joined in. Representatives who had remained silent for decades suddenly found courage. Species that had always supported Council policies now questioned them openly. How could you underestimate them so badly? Someone demanded. Did you even study their capabilities before sending the fleet? Why are we fighting them at all? Another asked. They only defended their territory. They have not attacked our civilian populations. They have not threatened our trade routes. What exactly is our justification for this war? Zethric tried to maintain control. The humans violated Council law. They built weapons we forbade. They claimed territories we designated as neutral zones. They struck first against Council facilities. These actions cannot go unpunished. But his words sounded hollow even to himself. The truth was that the Council had grown arrogant. They had assumed humans would be like every other species. Afraid, willing to submit, easy to control. They had been wrong. Catastrophically wrong, and now the entire galaxy knew it. Senator Kiara of the Therians stood. I move that we open negotiations with Earth, not as conquerors demanding surrender, but as equals seeking peace. We have tried force. It failed. Perhaps we should try diplomacy. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some agreed. Others wanted to send an even larger fleet. The Council that had been united for thousands of years was fracturing. All because one small species refused to bow down. Zethric realized with growing horror that Earth had accomplished something far more dangerous than military victory. They had broken the illusion that kept the Council in power. They had shown that resistance was possible, that the strong did not always win, that courage and clever tactics could defeat superior numbers. Once that idea took hold, once people believed they could fight back, the old order would never be the same. The galaxy was changing whether the Council wanted it to or not. And it was all because humans refused to accept that something was impossible, because they looked at overwhelming odds and decided to fight anyway, because they understood something the Council had forgotten. Freedom was worth any price. And people who truly believed that could not be conquered. They could only be destroyed. And destroying them would cost more than the Council was willing to pay. 3 months after the failed blockade, representatives from Earth sat in a neutral space station. Across from them sat Council negotiators. The atmosphere was tense but different from before. Earth was no longer begging for mercy. They were negotiating as equals, as a power that had proven it could not be easily conquered. Ambassador Helen Chang led the human delegation. She had spent 15 years working with alien species, learning their customs, understanding how they thought. Now all that experience mattered more than ever. Let me be clear about Earth's position, she began. Her voice was calm but firm. We do not seek to rule other species. We do not want to control the galaxy. But we will not be controlled either. We propose a new system. One based on voluntary cooperation instead of forced obedience. High Counselor Zethric looked tired, older. The last 3 months had aged him. His mandibles clicked nervously. The Council has maintained order for 12,000 years. Your proposal would create chaos. Ambassador Chang smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The Council has maintained control through fear and military power, but we proved that military power is not absolute. Fear only works until someone decides they are more afraid of submission than resistance. She pulled up a holographic display. It showed communication logs from across the galaxy. Since our conflict began, 47 different species have contacted us. Some want military alliances. Others want technology. Many simply want to know if what we did was really possible. The galaxy is changing whether you accept it or not. Senator Kiara of the Therians spoke up. She had become an unexpected ally to Earth. What exactly are you proposing? Dr. Kevin Murphy brought up detailed plans. We propose a galactic assembly, not a council of rulers who appointed themselves, but a democratic body where each species has representation, where decisions are made through debate and voting, not through ultimatums and threats. Zethric stood abruptly. This is absurd. You cannot simply undo 12,000 years of established order. Ambassador Chang met his eyes. We are not asking permission, High Counselor. We are offering you a choice. Adapt to the new reality or become irrelevant. Species are already forming independent alliances. Trade networks are reorganizing outside council control. You can lead this transition or be swept aside by it. The negotiations continued for weeks. Earth had leverage, but they used it carefully. They offered technology sharing, mutual defense pacts, economic partnerships. They showed that cooperation could be more profitable than domination. Not everyone agreed. Some council hardliners wanted to continue fighting. They argued for sending more fleets, larger forces. They refused to believe that Earth could not be beaten. But they were outvoted by pragmatists who recognized reality. The old order was dying. Trying to preserve it would only waste more resources and lives. 6 months after the failed blockade, the Galactic Charter was signed. The Council dissolved, replaced by the Galactic Assembly. Species that had been subjugated for centuries gained voting rights. Military forces were reorganized into defensive alliances instead of occupation armies. Border disputes would be resolved through arbitration instead of force. It was not perfect. Nothing ever was. There were protests on some worlds, conflicts as old power structures broke down, growing pains as the galaxy adjusted to a new way of doing things. But it was different, and most people agreed it was better. Admiral Patricia Carter stood on the observation deck of the newly renamed Earth Assembly Station. She looked out at the stars through the wide windows. Ships from dozens of species moved peacefully in the space around the station. Trade vessels, diplomatic shuttles, science expeditions. No warships except for a small defense force. Captain Daniel Price joined her. His uniform now bore the insignia of the Galactic Defense Force, a joint military organization formed to protect all member species. Do you think it will last? He asked quietly. Carter was silent for a moment. She thought about the question carefully. Nothing lasts forever. But we gave the galaxy something it has not had in 12,000 years. We gave it hope. We showed that change is possible. That the strong do not have to dominate the weak. That cooperation can be more powerful than conquest. Price smiled. That is very philosophical for a military commander. Carter laughed. It was a warm sound. I learned from watching humans. We have always been good at one thing above everything else. What is that? Refusing to accept that anything is impossible. The Council ruled for 12,000 years because nobody challenged them effectively. We challenged them not because we thought we would definitely win, but because we could not accept living under their control. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds, species that had lived under Council rule were learning the same lesson. Resistance was possible. Change was achievable. The old order could be challenged and replaced. It took courage. It took sacrifice. But it could be done. Earth had struck back against impossible odds, and in doing so, changed the galaxy forever. Not through conquest, not through domination, but through something far more powerful, through an idea. The idea that things could be different, that freedom was worth fighting for, that even the smallest species could stand against the mightiest empire if they had courage. The Galactic Council had been unprepared for Earth's resistance. They had forgotten something fundamental about intelligent life. The desire for freedom is universal, and the willingness to fight for it has no limits. Humans reminded the galaxy of that truth, and once learned, it could never be forgotten. 20 years passed. The Galactic Assembly grew to include 237 member species. Territories once controlled by force were now connected by trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Conflicts still happened, but they were resolved through negotiation rather than war, through compromise rather than conquest. Earth became neither ruler nor subject. They were something new, a catalyst for change. Human diplomats, scientists, and engineers worked alongside hundreds of alien species, sharing knowledge, building bridges between cultures, creating a future that was better than the past. The old High Counselor Zethric now served as an assembly representative. His species had gone from unquestioned rulers to equal partners. It had been difficult, humbling, but ultimately necessary. When younger species asked him about the transition, he always gave the same answer. The humans taught us that strength without consent creates only temporary peace. True stability comes from cooperation, not control. We ruled for 12,000 years, but we were not good rulers. We took without giving. We demanded without listening. The humans showed us a better way. Not everyone forgave the Council for its past actions. Some species harbored resentment for centuries of oppression, but most were willing to move forward, to build something new instead of dwelling on old grievances. The future was more important than the past. Lisa Martinez, now an admiral herself, commanded a joint task force of ships from 15 different species. She often thought about those early days, when Earth stood alone against the galaxy, when survival seemed impossible, when they fought anyway because humans did not know how to quit. She visited Earth regularly, walked through parks where monuments had been built, memorials for those who died defending their world, their names carved in stone, their sacrifice remembered. They had given everything so that humanity could remain free. But the best memorial was not made of stone. It was the galaxy itself, changed forever by what Earth had done, by the courage humans had shown, by the example they had set. Other species looked at Earth with respect now, not fear, not submission, but genuine respect, the kind that could only be earned through actions, through standing up when it would have been easier to kneel down, through fighting when surrender seemed inevitable. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When Earth struck back, the Galactic Council was unprepared, not because humans were stronger or smarter or better equipped, but because they represented something the Council had forgotten: the indomitable will to be free, the refusal to accept oppression, the courage to fight for what was right, even against impossible odds. And that, more than any weapon or strategy, had changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same, could never go back to the old ways. The age of the Council was over. A new age had begun, an age of cooperation and freedom, an age where even the smallest voice could be heard. Earth had not just saved itself. It had helped save the entire galaxy from stagnation and tyranny. And humans, despite being one of the youngest species in galactic society, had taught everyone else a lesson they desperately needed to learn. That change was possible, that freedom was worth fighting for, that together anything could be achieved. The stars shone bright over the assembly station. Ships from 1,000 worlds traveled freely through space, trading, exploring, learning, living without fear of an oppressive council demanding tribute and obedience. It was a better galaxy now. Not perfect, but better. And it all started because one species refused to accept that resistance was futile. Because humans looked at overwhelming odds and said no. Because Earth struck back when the galaxy expected them to surrender. That was the human way. Always had been, always would be. To fight for freedom, to stand against tyranny, to never give up no matter how impossible victory seemed. It was both humanity's greatest weakness and greatest strength.